Hello, lovely Helen.
Hello, lovely Ebony.
I'm really happy that we're having this conversation, and for so many reasons. I mean, one, it's just always nice to have a chat with you.
Likewise.
And I actually thought we might, we're going to talk about something. You put some bits on your form beforehand, and if you're listening or watching this, I do not give anyone any prompts. I don't tell them what it's about. I give them, like, they cannot prep. And for some guests, it's a nightmare. And for other people, they really love it because they just show up and they be them. So I have an idea of what we're going to talk about. But before that, what does sacrosanct mean to you when you hear me say the word, or when I mentioned this sacrosanct life? What did you think it meant? How does it land for you?
That is a very good question. And it's interesting because I've been thinking about this word this morning. I actually went for a really long walk on the beach this morning because I've been working hard. And I don't know what that word in itself means because I've resisted the urge to look it up. However, walking along the beach, I had this moment where I got my shoes off. You know, as we're recording this, it's May. It's not necessarily always the warmest time of year, but I got my shoes off. I'm walking along the beach. I'm really feeling into that lovely sensation of my feet connecting with the earth. It was super quiet. I'm walking on the water's edge, getting my feet wet. I've got my journal in my hand. I've got my water. I've just taken everything in. I'm singing, and this reflection that came to me was, oh my goodness me, like how incredibly lucky am I in this moment. I am a completely free spirit, and I am held. I've been gifted this day, and in a way, this might be completely not what sacrosanct is in terms of your original inception idea, but to me that felt like almost what I would call a sacrosanct moment. It's around that sort of sacred sense of being, of embodiment, of being connected and grounded, and just in communion with nature and yourself, and what really stirs your soul.
I love that. I love, the description that you've given and how you have created a life in which that is, a part, and potentially an everyday occurrence, not something saved for Sunday or whatever. It's, it's something that is in your life and that you have moored or steered your life towards.
100%. And the circumstances of my life have been very different to where I thought they would be at this stage of my life. But that vision has always been there. I've always wanted that. Freedom's a big driver for me, and I've wanted for a really long time to live somewhere that I don't feel I need a holiday from. That's what it boils down to.
Yeah. So for me, in a way, so sacrosanct is something that is valuable and important, and so important that you can't discount it. I'm sure I give a different description every single time, right? But the idea being that it is holy and therefore cannot be ignored, therefore cannot be taken away. And in some ways it's our non-negotiables, and it talks to our values and all of those things, and does have that sense of spirituality attached to it. One, because I'm using it, but two, because that's the essence of the sound of that word invokes as people are hearing it. But what I'm really interested in these discussions is the alignment between what we say or think is sacred to us, valuable to us, important to us, and how we then live that. And I want for people to be closing that gap, closing the gap between what you say is important to you and where your energy and intention and focus goes.
Yeah. Yeah, love that. And I 100% hear you on that, because this has been an evolution and shaped very consciously in terms of when I ended up having my big turning point in life, that like a few months before COVID, when I first ended up moving down to this area in West Sussex, I ended up buying a flat that was amazing. It had a view that I'd envisaged for years, which was basically, my view was the sea. It was right opposite the beach. And it ended up that building was so full of trauma and compression energy, because I was surrounded. I didn't know this when I bought it, obviously, because who would buy that sort of place? Like, I was just swept away by the view. I even got into the kitchen, and I realized about, I don't know, 6 weeks later, that the view that I had in the kitchen, it had a massive window and a breakfast bar and this stool that was with the property. And I suddenly thought, oh my God, that was a Pinterest image I saved.
Wow.
I mean, and I'm quite good at doing this, but clearly I had a lot to learn about specifics, and also how important peace and quiet and safety and security are, because I was surrounded by, just people who were really experiencing pretty traumatic mental health stuff. It was between lockdowns in the UK, and lots of partying, lots of alcohol, lots of drugs all around me, and it just did not feel safe at all. And so, even living quite consciously, that was an amazing opportunity for me to really tune into, oh yeah, okay, I underestimated the importance of peace in my life. I really need that as a creative, as a writer. I need, and you can go out and find it, but environment's very important for me, it's as it is for many of us. So yeah, that's how I've ended up relocating to somewhere.
Yeah, so you chose to, and it's so interesting, the limiting beliefs that people have, like, oh, I bought this property 2 years ago, I can't possibly move again, I'll just have to settle with what I
sold it within a year.
Exactly.
I don't care.
And, I know that bit, so I just thought I'd finish that.
Absolutely.
It really was a non-negotiable of you kind of going, no, actually what's really important to me is peace, and I will make that shift, and I will do whatever it takes, and I will recognize that I am divinely supported, and that if I stand and advocate for myself and make some moves, the universe will come and have my back and support me in that and guide me and show me where to go, and that money, is replenishable, and all of those kind of things. But I think that people, unless you've had that experience, it can be, or unless you have that level of faith, it can be very easy to instead fall into that I've made my bed so I'll lie in it camp.
Oh, 100%. And the key thing there is that level of faith. I have I'm kind of moving my hand back, because I have this huge sense of a wall of energy that supports me. I trust, that trust in that, like, I will be held, the universe has got my back type of thing. It's become a bit of a hackneyed phrase, but it's been so true for me. So yeah, having faith, it's like my lifesaver.
Which leads me into this piece that I wanted to talk about with you. So I'm going to segue this. Lots of people, when they hear the word sacrosanct, or they hear us talking about faith, and very often when I ask, I have a different job description for everyone I meet, but if anyone has ever come across me using the word priestess, there's this interesting, the connotations that go with that can be really interesting, and depending on the upbringing of that person, they will instantly have a perception or an understanding of what that means. And so more recently, I've been attempting to demystify that in some way and explain that there's not a faith that I'm talking about in particular. You know, it is, well, maybe a better way to say it would be, it is a faith, but it's not a dogma, right? Like it's not, I don't believe in a particular God or a particular way of being or whatever. But one of the tools that I use and enjoy to help people get to know themselves better and to understand their human experience better is astrology.
Yeah.
And it is Western or esoteric rather than Vedic, which is a whole other ballgame. And one of the pieces that I look at with my clients when I am helping them to understand, particularly in their midlife or, you know, post 40, let's say, is this idea of a south and north node and kind of the journey of the planets, and actually being able to look at your astrology and understand your hero's journey. And as a writer, I think you get this as well, and I think we're on quite a similar page around it. So I thought it might be interesting to look at the arc of one's life, or to explain the kind of the north node a little bit to people who are listening, in the context of how does this help us? How do, you know, and in the reverence of one's life, how does this help us? And for me, it's very much you know, that thing you were saying of like, my life does not look how I imagined it would look. And maybe people have heard of this idea of course correction, or the universe kind of nudging you somewhere, right? And for me, that's very much around this journey of North Node going, excuse me, this is the path you're supposed to be living in this life. And so I thought I'd just throw it over to you and see how does that land to you? And is this your understanding of North Nodes, or, yeah.
I love this so much.
Yeah, if you're not watching this, if you're listening, she just nodded a lot the whole time. I'm
just like, yes. Oh my goodness. So I adore metaphor. I have always been fascinated by the human condition and what makes us tick, and everything that exists around how we kind of make sense of that and use different inputs and tools and systems to help us, you know, just come back home to a sense of ourselves. And I think anything that can help people, I feel that anything that can help people to trust more in the journey and the bigger picture, is whatever that might be, it's worth its weight in gold. And you know, so for me, I actually only very recently started diving deeper into astrology. I am a lifelong learner, you know, I'm endlessly curious. I learn all day long, and I've been into moonology for a really long time. I've trained in 5 elements, TCM, traditional Chinese medicine. So the idea of living seasonally, cyclically, has been something I've done for over 20 years now. And I got into the moon energy when I actually ended up having a hysterectomy early in life. And I had a human design reading, and I was so curious about the process of everything coming together, everything that brings, you know, all the different systems that come into human design. It just made me want to dive deeper into astrology. And then when I found out that my rising sign and saw how much that correlated with who I am as a person, that was it. Like the seed of fascination was sown. And then I found out about the South Node and North Node journeys. And I've always loved the hero's journey, you know, as you said, like as a writer,
Mm-hmm.
The hero's journey is there's always that arc of storytelling in a book, or even a blog post, whatever it is you might do, even a video, and so it really appeals and it really resonates. And what I love for me is that I have discovered the South Node and the North Node journey, relatively later in terms of the biggest, I've been on some massive journeys in my life, and I don't mind saying I am the other side of 50, albeit on the earlier side of the other side of 50.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been really great for me because it validates almost the whole journey. It just gives me another anchor, if you like, within which I can really understand the context of the path that's been, the path that has been more present recently, the path that's to come. It blows my mind that the more I dive into it, the more sense it makes for me.
Yeah, for me also. And one of the reasons that I use these tools is to help people understand what to trust and what to tune out. And I think as the world, so most of the people that I work with would consider themselves highly sensitive or neurodivergent, or or using all of their senses, right? And in a world that is increasingly overwhelming because of the pure amount of information or sensory information that we are given in any moment, it can be really difficult to know what to listen to and what to tune out, what to pay attention to, and what to just go, oh yeah, that's not for me, right? And so when we have these tools, whether it is human design, whether it's personality typing, whether it's astrology, all of these different things, for me, what they help me do is help me go, oh, I'm processing this like this because that's how I see the world, because we're not all the same. And when people are sharing their personal stories or their opinions, there's wonderful Me Too moments in that for us, and so we can have a sense of belonging. But then there's also comparison that comes up, or should I feel like that? Do I feel like that? Right. And it's so easy to come out of ourselves rather than in.
Yeah.
And so for me, particularly with astrology, it helps me identify what I am here to experience and what is a distraction. Now, in human design, my work, or one of my numbers is gate 56, right? The most important thing that you look at in human design. And gate 56 is all about intoxication and distraction. And so for me, so I can either be this kind of siren song of distraction for other people, or I can help them understand where they are distracting themselves from what's important.
Yeah.
And for me, and for a long time, I was like, I'm just a distraction. And actually, I've been kicked out of classrooms my whole life for being a distraction. And I found this word and this information both simultaneously very helpful and really upsetting.
Yeah.
And the more I look at it and the more I sit with it, rather than reading what everyone else is writing, also just sit and contemplate this gate and its city and its the different elements of it. Like, what is it? Its highest expression? What is it? Its lowest expression? What is it when I'm in ego? And it's been really wonderful for me to sit with that. And then when you have this north-south nodal journey as well, for me at least, it places me on the map of my own life.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's the crux of it, isn't it, really, in a way? I love that, the map of your own life.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see astrology and the way that I see life actually is that life is a choose your own adventure novel.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I'm with you so much. So with you.
It's a choose your own adventure novel. And ever since I was a tiny child who kind of started to understand the concepts of the bigger concepts of life, this idea of fate and destiny and predeterminism and free will, it's all been very interesting to me. And at 41, nearly 42, I have got to the place where my current viewpoint on it is, there are some particular lessons that you chose as a soul that you wanted to experience in this life. And as you were incarnated and went through the waters of forgetting and arrived in your skin suit as a human vessel to a particular family and context and environment and all of that, you have this book, this to live out, right? This story to live out. But along the way, you get to make some decisions. So there is that free will, and it is a choose your own, like you're either going to say yes or you're going to say no. There aren't always that many options, right? But it will take you on a journey. And then we get things like, we're recording this over an eclipse, and then we get things like eclipses twice a year, which are portals to course correction. And if you're living in alignment with your true self, with your yes and your no, you're saying yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no, those course corrections are going to be subtle. If you've totally overridden the information of your body and all the rest of it, sometimes there's a real ping back that happens. Yeah. So this is my understanding and take of astrology.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And I concur. Good. Everything you just said.
So my next question is, what axis are you exploring in this life? So what's your north node? What's your south node?
So my north node is Pisces. And I think my south node, I think that makes my south node Virgo, if I'm right.
Gosh, this is where my astrology falls down. I'm like, yes.
I could look up the picture, but let's just be present in the moment because I'm heading towards, I'm on the North Node journey now. We're on the Piscean journey now.
So the way that, gosh, isn't that hilarious? Honestly, my brain's gone. I think they go together.
It's because we're in the moment.
I know, this is what happens. And you're like, I teach this stuff, where's it gone? Yeah, well, we'll see. But yes, you're right, Virgo. So in astrology, all of the signs have their equal and opposite. And so where Virgo is concise and particular and landed and earthly, Pisces is out there, but the theme that they have in common is healing, right?
Yeah.
Which is fascinating. So if you're listening to this, I'm like, what are you talking about? The journey, it is said, from South Node to North Node is one of where you were in previous lifetimes and something you have mastered, and something you have become comfortable in, and a theme or an energy that you've become comfortable in, moving through to that which you are here to inhabit or make center stage in your life, in this life. And so knowing you a little as I do, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. Previously very comfortable in that kind of much more Virgoan energy of conscientiousness and doing it right and all of those things.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I was definitely one of those people who, I call it my head-led journey to my heart-led journey. And now I'm in my soul-led journey, essentially. Those have been the three big stages for me. And, even when I started escaping where the head-led path had taken me, which was Western medicine, I was a sonographer. So even when
which again makes perfect sense for that Virgo and energy, right?
Yeah, I've always helped.
Very particular and very masculine, very very corporal, right?
Yeah, like BSc ONS, kind of very science-led. And then the breadcrumb trail took me in the direction of shiatsu, which I'd never even heard of, but my curiosity got the better of me. But even when I started on that journey, it's a 3-year training. I was very much prove it to me, what is this crack pulled energy, what is chi, you know. And as a result, it took me till the 3rd year to actually feel it in my hands. And you know, it's just been, even then I was very much like, I want to do it properly, I must do well in my final exam, and you know, all of that stuff, and very much on the sort of people pleaser side of things. And whereas, you know, I adore people, I do, and I'm so much more unapologetic now about things. And you know, that kind of daydream me as a writer has always been there. It was something I was really criticized for at school, like to stop gazing out the window, and I was called Dolly Daydream, so that was always there. But it's taken me such a long time to then just come back and claim that. But I love the fact that I have the grounding and the esoteric. I love that I'm a bridge between those kind of two worlds.
Well, and so if anyone's listening to this, like, one of the reasons I love, like, there are different parts of astrology that I look at. So I will always look at your sun sign, because that's important, and it tells us about your personality and who you're growing into, also your rising sign, and who you are, who you get to be comfortable as, right? Because we're becoming our sun. And when we allow the world to revolve around us, because that's what the sun does, right? Like this, then we get to come more into our sun. And for the beginning part of our life, at least, the way that we're perceived is our rising sign. And I love that you said that you got your rising sign, you were like, that's me, right? So I think most people, there's always, so if I give you an example, and it's complicated with me because so many of them double up, as you will now see, but can you guess my sun sign? My hair gives it away.
Yes, you're Leo.
Yes, right. So it does. I'm a Leo. You can tell I'm a Leo, right? Okay, so then my rising sign, so that's how the world sees me and how I see myself. Again, I think is quite obvious in how I live my life, the lifestyle that I live. So I'm Sagittarius rising, but I'm also Sagittarius moon. And then for me, the thing that I have found that I thought was very that I didn't really get for a long time until I really started studying, and in order to teach astrology and the pieces of it that I think are pertinent on our journey, and that navigating the kind of being a spiritual being in a physical body. But my North Node is Leo.
Wow.
So I've got these very particular energies to work with in this life. Right? And so that journey from Aquarius, of being really out there, being a misfit, being different, right? Like if you look at the context of my book, the name, like Misfit to Maven literally is the journey from Aquarius to Leo over a lifetime, right? It's like, you couldn't make this stuff up.
What I love about it all, it's magic.
Yeah, magic, actual magic. And yeah. Okay, we've just nattered for ages, but this has been very interesting to me. And I think in terms of the kind of the premise of like what is sacrosanct to us, sometimes when it's too big a question, you're like everything. Looking at your astrology, looking at your human design can really help you to see what is really important to you in this life, like where your focus is, how you get to kind of bring it down into something quite tangible. And I think often people think of these things like astrology as wafty and out there and a kind of nice story, but for me it really helps ground me in the reality of life.
Definitely. You know, I think I use that word anchor, you know, and I especially for a lot of people in my world who I resonate with, I know you're very similar, lots of creatives, lots of very soulful people, quite a few spiritual people, but so many of us need some kind of anchor, especially as kind of hummingbird creatives, which I definitely am. We need that. We need to, otherwise it's too big, it's too vast, there's too many options, there's too many ideas. I still struggle with that, but it has definitely helped me to bring it home more often than it doesn't.
I love that. And that's helped me think of what I'm going to ask you in Sacrosanct Secrets. So I'm going to make sure that all your links, people can come and find out about you. And are we putting multiple named links in? Am I putting some Helen Rebello and some Helen MacGregor stuff in?
Interesting question. I mean, maybe Helen Rebello is my South Node persona.
You know what, I'm going to put it all in. So if you're listening to this, I'm going to put everything in the show notes so you can go and have a discovery and go and find out more and engage with Helen. And if you are a subscriber of Sacrosanct Secrets, we're going to head over there now. Helen, thank you so much for coming and having a random but beautiful conversation with me.
Oh, honour, always. And thank you so much for asking me and for trusting me to just rock up and riff.
Best way.
With love, with you.
Yeah.